Welcome to Release Readiness Live. I'm Elna Miller, your Release Readiness champion. We are here in the studio all this week to talk about new features from the Spring 20 release across all the major clouds. In this broadcast, we are talking with the team from Einstein Analytics. Our hope is that whether this is your first Salesforce release or your 20th, you'll learn something new that you can use. Our product team is right here in the studio to tell you about some new features, do some live demos, and answer questions on the air. Speaking of questions, let's take a quick moment to review how this works. We will be monitoring both the Release Readiness Trailblazers community and Twitter, and the most important thing to remember is to use the hashtag #SalesforceLive. I recommend posting your longer, more detailed questions in the community where conversation can continue after the webcast. Now, if we don't get to your question on the air, don't worry, we'll be sure to follow up with you within a few days. We are recording this broadcast so you can watch it back whenever you like. Now, since we may be covering the roadmap, we will be making some forward-looking statements, so please make sure you make any purchasing decisions based on currently available functionality. And now let's meet our product managers today, starting with Arthur. Welcome.
Hi guys, I'm Arthur. I'm the product manager for the Builder team. This is the first time for me, so I'm pretty thrilled to be showing some of the awesome features for the experience track.
Hi, my name's Avni. I'm the product manager for Einstein Discovery, and I'm really excited to talk about the new features coming out in the Spring 20 release.
Hi, my name is Radha. I'm a product manager as well. I'm looking forward to showcase 2 new products that we are launching with Spring 20.
All right, thank you and welcome. Thanks. So Arthur, what's new with Experience?
All right, so let's dive right into it. So as we were saying, there are 3 layers here that we'll be presenting. I'll be doing the experience one, Avni will be diving into the intelligence one, and Radha will look at the industry analytics app. So let's dive right into the experience summary. And here there are 3 main themes that we're focusing on. The first one being fast start, the second one being simple, and the last one being everywhere. So I won't go into too much details here, but just to highlight some of the key ones that we'll be talking a bit into more depth. So for fast start, Snowflake Direct and watch lists are definitely features that you should watch out for and be sure to try them out, even though they're in beta for this release. For the simple side, as you can see, there are quite some features here, and I'll be doing a lot of demos about those. But yeah, focusing on making it simpler for you guys to build more dynamic dashboards and make them more creative, interactive, and all through the UI without having to diving into too much code. And last but not least, there's some awesome features coming out on the engagement side with the email subscription panel and the ability to add new email recipients to notifications. So let's dive right into the builder side of things. And let's have a look at the dynamic reference line UI. So with this new UI, it will allow you, through a couple of clicks, to be able to add a reference line with its dynamic label and value to your awesome charts. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is the advanced interaction editor. And we're really excited to release this in the Spring 20 release. You can now forget about Command E. You can dive right with this new tool. You can now dive into your widgets and queries without having to search for them endlessly into the JSON. In addition, this new tool will help you build and preview your bindings before bringing them to life inside of your dashboards. And last, we are releasing and enhancing targeted faceting, which was previously doable through code. But we're now able to do it all through UI and without any JSON, and it will allow you to select specific queries that you want to facet others. So without further ado, let's dive into some demos so that you guys can see how to use those tools and what they look like. So what you have here is a call center dashboard with some great KPIs about today's volume, also some metrics about the changes, and some great dashboards showing you how many calls are logged every 2 hours. So what I want to start doing here is add a dynamic reference line. And the way to do this is we're going to go into edit mode, and we're going to look at this chart. So far so good. The first thing we want to do is go into the properties panel on the right side here, and the similar way you will add a static reference line. We will select the y-axis and click on reference line right here. So preemptively, I have created a query that will be the one driving the reference line, and it's called average hours per day. So what's new for you here that you can see here is those two new icons here and there that will let you choose a value for the reference line based on an existing query. So if I click on this, it takes me to this new panel where I'm able to select the query. So here I'm looking for the average number of hours per day, as well as the field, which is the average number. And the last thing we want to determine here is whether it is a result or selection binding type that we're choosing. So for this use case, I'm just going to use result, which is the default one, and hit apply. And as you can see, a reference line was added. So the next thing we want to do is have a nice label for it. And here, the same way we just did for the value, we're going to click on here and go through the same exact steps. So select a measure and select a field. And as you can see here, we have this kind of rich text editor that got populated with the field. So what we want to do next is, let's say, add some customization. So average is, and then hit apply. And now we have our dynamic reference line that was created with its nice and awesome label. So far you can tell me, oh, this is just a normal static reference line look like. But if, let's say, we go into preview mode, and now we apply some filter on the time right here, and we change this, hit apply. As you can see, the reference line value and label were updated dynamically, as well as the chart. Pretty awesome, right? And how easy was this? It took me a couple of clicks, and it was all through our beautiful UI. All right, so what I want to do next is demo targeted faceting. And to do this, I'm going to go into the second page of my dashboard, where I have some different charts, some filters, some list filters, and also a new chart right here that I'm going to use to pass selections. So just before diving into into targeted faceting, just to make sure everyone understands that. So faceting consists of the selections that get passed when you're clicking on different elements of your dashboards. So here, if I go into preview mode and I click on this chart, you can see that those number widgets on the left side are getting updated, right? So are the charts. So let's say for some reason that here, I always want this KPI right here, the 2.7K, to stay like this. I never want it to change based on the selection that I'm making on this chart. So let's say we have a user that's interested in that is interested in looking at the numbers for June or July, but I don't want those KPIs to change for the users. So the way we would do this usually, and so far, was go into the JSON and have to add to modify the query so that the faceting coming for this query is excluding this guy. But with our new UI, you're now able to do that without any code. So how we would go about it, we will look at this query first, since it's the one that we're looking to exclude, and we're looking at what's its name, right? And so here it's called hours per month. So what we're going to do next is we're gonna go take a look at our number widget, our number query. And right here in the property panel, we have the query tab. And if we look at under the faceting sections that was existing before, we now have the ability in this drop-down menu to select include or exclude, whereas previously it was all or none. So let's say here we want to exclude the query running this chart. The way we would do this is by selecting exclude and then choosing the query. And so once we hit this button, we get pulled in this list of queries. And here we're able to make multiple selections on the queries that we're interested in excluding, right? So here, the one we want to exclude is the one named hours per month. So let's do this. And if we exclude this one and we hit apply, so if ever you click the wrong one or you want to go back, you can simply hit choose queries again and it'll take you back to that model. But once this is done, we can go back into preview mode. And here you'll be able to select any of those, make any of those selections. And as you can tell, the value here is never changing, right? The KPI is staying the same no matter what selections we're passing through it. So the same way I did it with exclude, you're now able to do that with include as well, depending on whatever suits you better. The last thing I want to get into is the advanced interaction editor. So what we're going to try and do now, there are multiple aspects why this is a great tool. The first one is something that I'm sure you all do, is build really complex dashboards with complex binding, and you're trying to make this more interactive. And to do this, the only way is to go into the JSON editor through Command E, and you land into this huge page with a lot of information, and you end up having to search for your widget or query for a while. So what's great about this is now, let's say I'm interested in this chart, and I want to access the Advanced Interaction Editor. There are two ways of doing so. There's a button right here at the top of the right panel, of the property panel, and right here at the bottom in this blue panel. So if I click on Advanced Editor, it takes me to this new bottle. And as you can see right now, I'm in widget property, but I can also switch to the query code. So before going further, I want to kind of show you, take some time to show you the different elements and what each of those do. So in the middle here, you have the code for only that widget or that query, which will take away all the time searching for the query you want to modify or make more interactive or change, which is its first great asset. The second thing is this left panel, which will let you build a binding. And with the help of the bottom panel here, which shows you the created interaction as well as the result, it would let you preview, as you're building it, it will let you preview what you're building, and you'll be able to change it or better understand what you're doing so that you can modify it if it's not exactly what you were expecting. So for the purpose of this demo, we're going to build a really simple binding, and I actually have already built, but I'll go through the process of building it. So here, what we're trying to do is I created a custom query that's powering this widget. It's called summer month, and it's a toggle widget. And what I'm going to try to do is link this toggle widget to a text widget. So it's fairly simple, as just to show you that the process of building the binding and how it works. So to do so, we're going to go into the advanced editor for this text widget. And here, this is what we're trying to get to, this binding. So let's go through the process together. So the first thing you're going to do is select a source query. So here, we're looking for summer month, which is all the way at the bottom. Another thing that I didn't mention and is definitely worth looking at is a feature that was added in this release is this little eyeball icon right here that you see. And what this does is it lets you preview queries. So it's a nice thing when you can't remember what all, especially here in this dashboard, you see there are a lot of really similar queries. It will let you visualize really quickly without leaving this interface what the query is and let you choose them. So let's go back to summer month. And now we're going to choose the data that we are interested in displaying and binding it to. So here, what we want to do is select a column, because as you can see, the only thing we have in this custom query is one simple column. And we're going to click display. And so as you can see, as we're building it, it's getting populated, the created interaction. So once this is done, similarly to the dynamic reference line, we're asked to choose the interaction type. So here, I want this to be a selection. In addition to this, under the More Option tab, you can now set a default value, which will generate a coalesce function, as well as use data serialization functions. So once this is done, you have two options. You can either copy it and paste it in, or go into edit mode if you want to customize it further or add some modifications or tweaks to your bindings. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm simply going to copy it and paste it here, which is the exact same binding, and hit save. And if we go into preview mode now, if I apply any selection on June or July, as you can see, it's getting populated in the text widget. So this new tool will not only let you build the binding, but also preview them and help you going through this process that we all know is not the most fun one, right? All right, so that was it for the builder part. Now let's go back to the slides and let's dive into the Explorer highlights. So on the Explorer side, you can now use ClicksNowCode to pull in data from multiple datasets to build your insights. And previously, this could be accomplished with custom SQL, but now you're able to do it all through our beautiful UI. So we understand that it happens quite often that you will have data coming in from multiple datasets, and it can be quite tedious to combine them inside of one single visualization so that it's much easier for your users to consume. The next feature that I want to present here is Snowflake Direct. With Snowflake Direct, it will enable live exploration and real-time insights. These insights can be used against your EA data so that you can have multiple data sets pulled in and have them compared. So the great tool, the great assets for Snowflake Direct is that it will let you do some quick explorations on data that you haven't pulled in so that you can manipulate it and have some nice visualizations. But it definitely has some drawbacks on the performance side. The next thing that I'm touching on here is the picker enhancements that I'll go through real quickly. As you will be able to see that measure and group pickers have new visuals. So let's dive into the demo. And the first thing I will be doing a demo on here is the data blending UI. So for this exercise, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a regional sales manager. And what I'm interested in doing here is having my sales compared to my target. So the issue here is that my sales and my target are in two different data sets, and they're also on different screens. So for the target dataset, we only have target and product subcategory. As you can see here, if I'm going into my values table for the target dataset, you will only see product category, product subcategory, and the target for each of those. Whereas if I'm looking at my sales dataset and I go into the values table, you see that we have much more information. Some stuff about the customer names or the shipping cost or other things. So the question we are trying to answer here is, for each product subcategory, how am I doing compared to my target? And in order to solve this, what we first want to do is, inside of our sales dataset, we're going to add a product subcategory. Actually, no, sorry. I'm going to add I'm going to add the dataset. So I'm going to add the target dataset. And so once this is done, I'm going to add the product subcategory. And as you can see here, in this new model, you're able to select it from both of the datasets. So here, let's go ahead and select this for each of them and click Add. And so what this does is we now have the data coming from both of the dataset about the product subcategories and their values. What we're going to do next is add a bar length, because what we're missing here is our targets, right? So let's go ahead and open the new measures. And if we scroll down here, we can see that for this new dataset, we have new measures. So we select targets, and now this looks pretty good. We now have the values for each of the product subcategories in terms of rows here and in terms of sales here. So that's the next thing we want to modify is go here, and instead of count of rows, we want the sum of sales. Awesome. So now let me just do a quick modifications for the chart type and the format so that it's easier to consume. So I'm going to change it to a column chart, and I'm simply going to put this in a single axis. All right, awesome. So this is what we're trying to get to. We now have a single visualization, which takes the data from multiple data sets and is breaking down information across both of them by product subcategory, and I'm able to compare my sum of sales with my target. So that's pretty awesome. Now let's switch to Salesforce Snowflake Direct. So in order to do this, I'm going to close my tabs. All right. And the way you do this is you go into the data manager. And here, as you can see, I'm going to the Connect tab, and I'm going to click on Connect to Data. So now, in the data manager, EA admins can control what connections are shown to the users, and those are the only one they can explore. And I've already set up some live connections, as you can see in this new tab right here. So what you're seeing here are all the connections that you're very familiar with and that you can use today. But we have this new tab right here in which you can add connections that will be live. So as you can see here, I have already added some new ones, some existing ones. The way you would do it is click on Add and select the Snowflake Direct Connector, and then you will go ahead and fill that up. So very similar to what exists and you currently have for the other type of data. So I'm not going to go through all of it, and I'm simply going to show you what this looks like for the end user. So if I go back here in the Analytics Studio, and if I look at my data sets, you now have a whole section here that's called Live Data. And if we go ahead and select it, you'll see that you can click on them and make a direct call to Snowflake against the schema, and and this will tell me all the tables that are available for me to explore. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and select Orders. And as you can see, it's loading. It's loaded up. All right, awesome. So what this does, and it's allowing me to query against Salesforce Snowflake data directly in live. And now I can do any exploration as I would be doing it with other datasets. So for this demo, we're going to do something very simple. We're simply going to group this by order priority. And we'll make it look a bit nicer and change the chart to a donut chart. All right, awesome. So what's great about it is that now, let's say we want to add this to a dashboard. We're going to go ahead and clip this to Designer. And let's say sales by priority. And go ahead. All right, so this looks good. We now have a dashboard with a live query to Snowflake. And by the time the dashboard loads up, it pulls the data from Snowflake directly in live. So I was able to drag that query, that lens. And now if I go into preview mode, you can explore the data directly. Pretty awesome. All right, so that was it for the Snowflake Direct. Back to the slides, and now I'm going to jump into the home highlights. So here, a couple things to highlight. With the Spring 20 release, Einstein Analytics dashboards users can easily manage their email subscription with the ability to edit widget subscriptions, titles, and new email preview. So as you can see on the left, you now have a panel that will help you manage those all in one place. The second the second feature that I wanted to talk about is the ability to now add email recipients to notifications. So previously, notifications were linked only to one email, and it was quite restrictive. So we're now adding the ability to have multiple emails being linked to the notifications. And last but not least, the watch list. This is an awesome feature that's coming up in beta for this release, and that will help you gather all the most important metrics into a single view. In addition, Watchlist is the only feature that allows trending, that will let you see the evolutions of those most important metrics all in one place. So very awesome features, and we're all excited about. And that was it for my section.
All right, thank you. That's a lot of great stuff, and there's a lot of excitement about, especially from Christy. She loves the dynamic reference lines and the targeted faceting, and she's really glad she doesn't have to go into SACL and JSON, and she's just going to reserve that for when she wants to do something fun rather than that type of thing. So thank you for that initiative. John also said that Einstein Analytics is really gearing more towards clicks and no code, and really great for admins who just want to get things done quickly and easily. So appreciation for that. And I thought that live query to Snowflake was really impressive. I mean, it looked so easy and fast, and you just don't have to upload or
yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and it goes well.
Nice. So a couple of questions for you before we move on. So speaking of the Clicks Not Code initiative, what are some of the next widgets or capabilities you're working on?
So that's an awesome question. So we're currently working on the text/number widget. So we're thinking of improving the ability to make that dynamic. And we know everyone uses text and number widget, and that's the demo I went through to show you the advanced interaction editor to kind of show you how to make this dynamic. So we know it's something that users definitely would like to see, and that's what we're working on right now.
Right. Next question is, how are the data sets connected together, and what kind of blend is it?
Yeah, so that's a great question as well. So for you to know by default, when you're building, when you're connecting the data sets together, it's connected through a left blend, but you have the ability to choose whichever one you want. You have right blend, inner blend. So let's say, like for the use case, the example we were looking at, if you had some rows where you wouldn't have any target or like sales number, using inner blend, you would be able to take those away.
All right, great. Now about Snowflake Direct. So I think it was pretty clear what the advantages of that were. I mean, having the connector, a lot of that work is sort of done for you, but what are the advantages of using that, and why should I still import, or when would I still need to import data?
Sure. So the advantage of Snowflake Direct it's mostly is for quick exploration. So it will allow you to get a sense of what your data set will look like and kind of understand your data better. But one of the bigger drawbacks for sure, and one of the reasons why we think it's still relevant to import your data is in terms of performance. And there are a lot of things that will not be supported yet with Snowflake Direct, such as bindings, and other elements. So there's definitely a huge attraction for this feature, because it will let you do great things. But we still have to improve it in order to make it to the same level as importing.
So maybe you're looking at importing a subset when you want to do a real deep analysis and kind of make different associations.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas if just want to take a quick look, kind of get a sense of the direction that the data is going, and to kind of give you some ideas of what you might want to import, then the direct query would be useful for that, right?
More relevant, for sure.
Right. Got it. That's really interesting. So I think we're ready now to move on to intelligence. And Avni, it's over to you.
Awesome. Great. So I just wanted to start out with what the highlights for this release are. So we have a lot of really great features, but the ones I really wanted to focus on were, we have new correlation calculation coming out. So we're all used to seeing, how correlated are the fields in my data set with what I'm predicting for. And that's really, really useful information that you used to be able to get after you run your first story. Now, when you're setting up your story, you can see that right off the bat. So if you have something that you want to ignore that looks a little bit too correlated, you can do so. Or, if you see some that aren't correlated at all, you can also ignore those. We have piloted tree-based models. So I'll talk a little bit more about this and you'll see it in the demo, but we used to just have linear models, but now we are piloting GBM and XGBoost models. We have what could happen, so we now give users the ability to do some what-if analysis to play with, I have this model that I haven't yet deployed. What are possible predictions that could come from it? We have the long-awaited story versioning that just went live. Now you don't have to create new containers of the same story. It's all logged within one story container. And then lastly, scoring with dataset joins. So external data can now be used or more than one data set actually can be used to score on new data as it comes in. So first I want to talk about tree-based models. So what you're pretty used to is seeing the linear models in Einstein Discovery. So it's just the linear model where you just do one of two types of predictions. Now what we're going to do is pilot both GBM and XGBoost. So users will have the ability to turn this on and just play with what these new models look like, what their performance looks like, or you can leave it up to Discovery to pick what the best algorithm for your data set is. So we'll run all of them and give you the one that performs the best. So that's really exciting, but I want to clarify what all is included in the pilot. So right now, these models are not deployable. You cannot go ahead and deploy them and score them on new data. It's really only for the purposes of playing with the performance, so seeing what type of accuracy lift you get. And then some of the explainability functionality is not yet available either. So in that why it happened, the second order analysis might not be totally functional yet, but we'll get those definitely cleared up before it goes to GA. Next, what could happen? So you'll see this in the demo that I give, but really love to play with some what-if analysis so you can get some live predictions on a row of data that you create on the fly and see even the improvements and the top predictors. Next, story versioning. So get that lineage of the story that you created. So you're taking those really great recommended updates to, generate new versions of the same story, and you don't want fully new story containers. So this is a really great place to see the lineage of the entire data, of the entire story, and see, what you changed to change the performance. And then score with dataset joins. So I have, you're only able today to use one Salesforce dataset to do scoring on. Now we give you the ability to do more than one data set, add a supplemental data set so that if you've done any feature engineering before you brought the data into Discovery, we take account of that before you score on new records. And the last thing that I want to mention before I dive into the demo is the end of life for Classic Discovery. So as the Spring 20 release rolls out, which will be sometime in February, you'll see that if you're still on AWS, that you're automatically ported over onto the new version of Discovery. So that, we're really end of lifing the Classic Discovery. If you still need to see your old data, it'll be available for 3 months. Please log a support ticket to be able to, revert back to that old version. And the last thing that I want to mention here is that existing stories will not be ported over, so you'll have to recreate them on the new version of Discovery. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive into a demo of the features that we talked about. So in Analytics Studio, we pick a data set, so just as we normally do, and create a story. So in this use case, what I want to do is maximize my employees not attriting. So what can I do to keep my employees? I'm going to do a model with insights, so both the live insights as well as the predictive model. and then I want to manually take a look at my data before creating that story. So the first thing I want to point out here is that these correlations are automatically calculated on the fly. So this column you used to be able to see after the first run of your data set. But now I see right away what are the most important columns in this data set. And if you see any that are 0% or 0.2% correlated, you can go ahead and drop them so that you know right off the bat which are the important columns that you should be paying attention to. The other thing that I want to point out here is this is how we enable the GBM pilot. So if you're interested in this, please reach out to your sales rep, and I will go ahead and turn that flag on for you so that you can go ahead and try out this GBM pilot. You can turn this on and it'll automatically create a GBM story for you so you can compare it with what your old linear model story might look like and see what kind of accuracy lift you might be getting from this new type of algorithm. What's really exciting here and what we're working on before we GA is, all of the explainability that you're used to in discovery and that you love, where you get to see, exactly why the model made the decisions that it did, are going to carry over into tree-based models. So the user will have exactly the same experience. You won't see any change in, the explainability, the model metrics, anything like that. So that's really, really exciting for us. So let's move to a story that's already finished. So this is a screen that most discovery users are very used to. The first thing that I want to point out here is that we've gone ahead and cleaned up our tooltips a little bit. So instead of seeing just a blatant number here, you get a percentage. So this is a much more easy to read kind of view of the same insights that you're used to. So let's take a look at the version history. So this is versioning live in action. You get to see all the versions of this story and a timestamp around them. So you can rename these versions. So you can say, final or anything like that when it comes to sharing these stories. But you get a full lineage of, when the story was created, and you can compare multiple stories in, that compare model metrics feature that came out last release. So you can see, how changes in data or how, recommended updates that you took into account, how they change the performance of your story. Let's go ahead and move to what could happen. So let's create a row of data here and see, how it performs with a prediction on the fly. So here, I'm going to say that I have an employee who works overtime and who's a sales rep. They've been working 4 to 5 years. Let's give them that monthly income. We'll say they're 27 to 29 years old. And they're married. So here, right off the bat, and really automatically, I'm getting a prediction. So for this row of data, for this employee that I've constructed, Einstein's telling me that they are going to attrit. Down here, we see, this is the cutoff. So at this cutoff, we say that an employee is going to attrit versus not going to attrit. And we get the top predictive factors here as well. So it's telling me that works overtime is the #1 reason that this person is going to attrit. And that as, maybe their boss, I have something that I have control over. So I can mark that works overtime as actionable. And now Einstein is telling me that I have a, recommended improvement that I could take to lessen this person's chances of attritting. So if I change whether or not they work overtime, let's see what happens. So I click that and we see down here that now, with the improved outcome, the possible outcome that, could exist, whether if I took that improvement into account, is telling me that now this person is not going to attrit after I took that action. So this is a really, really great place to play with, a model that maybe you're not fully ready to deploy, but you want to play with and see, possible results and possible predictions that you could be getting. So we're really, really excited about this feature. And one more thing that I want to mention here is that this threshold is based on that maximum accuracy, but in that model metrics, if there's anything else that, you want to play with, so say that F1 score is what I want to maximize, I can click on that, and as this, threshold changes, the what if is respectful of that, and so you'll see that the threshold here changes as well. So that's really, really exciting. It's all dynamic, all, really in tune. So let's say that I'm happy with this model and I'm now ready to deploy it. We have, a little bit of a new deploy flow. So here, let's say I want to deploy as a new prediction. So first thing I want to point out here is you can now, before you used to have to connect it with a Salesforce object, that's no longer true. You can now deploy this model without connecting to a Salesforce object. And why would you want to do that? So the first use case for that is, say that you want to surface these predictions outside of Salesforce. So maybe, in the use case that I just talked about, where I'm predicting whether or not an employee is going to attrit. That might not be based on Salesforce data. That might be based on Workday data. So I don't want to connect it to a Salesforce object. I want to get those predictions outside of Salesforce. The second reason is, maybe this is a new data set that I want to score. So it's not really, a new Salesforce object or anything that I want to connect. It's just a new data set that I'd like to score on. That's when you would, move forward without connecting to a Salesforce object. So in this case, let's say, employee is the object we're connecting it with. And let's go ahead and map the fields. So it's automatically mapping those fields back to that employee object, but we see that monthly income is missing because monthly income might be coming from a supplemental data set, an outside data set. So let's add a supplemental data set. Say that data is coming from all employees. That's another data set. So now I'm adding a second data set to, kind of supplement what I already have and really respect the feature engineering that was done before this data set was used to build a story. And then all else I have to do is specify the field to join on. So in this case, employee number is going to be represented in both data sets, and I can specify that, and now you'll see that I can choose monthly income. So now all of my fields are mapped successfully, and I can move forward with deploying this data set using more than one, or scoring this model using more than one data set. Last thing that I wanted to point out before passing it on to Radha is, this is the what happened page that you're fairly used to. You can now go ahead and hit explore and explore that insight in a new lens. So this is really, really exciting. You no longer have to build this visualization. You can go straight from the story and explore that card in a new lens. So we're really, really excited about that. With that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on. To Elna
why don't
first.
we take a couple of questions?
Of course.
Thank you. I love the multiple data sets. That's
Yeah.
and it was so easy to just kind of knows what you can now map once you've added that additional one. So very nice. So in the tree-based model pilot, could you just go over what is included in the pilot? Because sometimes it's partial functionality or more
definitely.
to come later.
Sure. So in the pilot, what we have today is the model metrics will all be available. The what happened, so the descriptive analysis is available. And so what the goal of the pilot really is to have users see if they get any sort of lift in improvement in the metrics. So is there an accuracy lift that you're getting from this new type of algorithm? Where the limitations lie are, so we're not going to have scoring. You can't yet deploy these models. Those will, of course, be available when we go GA, but that's a work in progress. And then some of the explainability, so the waterfall charts in the why it happened, are not yet fully up to date. So as we GA them, they'll be totally functional, and you'll have the same experience that you were used to with the linear models, but now with the tree-based models.
Okay. And are there any special requirements, or is there a special process to get into the pilot?
Right. So just reach out to your Salesforce salesperson, and they'll let me know. I just need an org ID, and I can go ahead and switch that on. I'd really love to have any users play with this new pilot.
Great. Next question is, what data sets can I use for the scoring with data set joins?
Sure. So any analytics data set, so again, those could be Salesforce data sets that are just CSVs that they've uploaded, or take advantage of the huge list of connectors that we now have, and just bring those data sets into, and create an analytics data set, and any of those could be used as a supplemental data set to do scoring.
Okay, great. Now, a lot of folks often wonder, when they would use Einstein Discovery. So can you just give a few of the most common use cases?
Sure. So, a lot of So discovery is more of a platform, so it's definitely geared around CRM use cases, but also since it is a platform, any external use cases could also be used. So for example, lead scoring is a huge one that we see. Churn, whether it's customer churn or employee churn, as we just demoed, things like that are great use cases. So the two types of problems, just to be clear, that we use either for GLM or the new type of models that we're introducing are either predicting a number, so what is my CSAT going to be, or what are my sales going to be, or a bucket. So will my customer churn or not, or is this going to be a high or low effort use case? Those are the two types of problems that Discovery today targets.
Right. Now, one more question on the tree-based model. So it's in pilot now. When do you expect it to go GA?
Sure. So we expect it to be GA in summer. We're working hard on getting that done. So those two new types of models, GBM and XGBoost, we expect to be GA in the summer.
All right, great. So we have about 30 minutes left. So we have one more speaker, and I want to encourage everybody to ask as many questions as you want, because we'll probably have time to do them on the air. And with that, I'll hand it over to Radha.
So while my two awesome colleagues talked about analytics platform capabilities, enhanced features, and all that, I'm looking forward to talk about two new products that we are launching in Spring 20. And both of them are purpose-built applications for one for consumer goods, and the other one is for customer lifecycle analytics. Let me talk about consumer goods analytics application first. So this is a purpose-built, pre-built analytics application that runs on industry-specific data model for consumer goods. This is geared towards two primary target persona. One is the salesperson, sales manager, and the second one is field sales reps who are making store visits. And using this pre-built analytics application, they should be able to optimize their store visits, promotion analysis, any store KPIs, compliance KPIs that they care about, in maximizing the sales, engaging with their customers, and planning, product white spaces and things like that. With that, let me dive into the application. As I log in as a sales manager, I'm within my home screen. I am presented with the top KPIs any sales manager cares about with respect to field sales or any retail execution tasks. For example, I can look at my territory revenue that I am responsible for quarter to date, and is it increasing or decreasing with respect to the prior period. And also it gives me a big number that is giving me the number of stores that need my attention, and also gives a short list of stores where I need to pay attention. And as a sales manager, if I have a team of sales reps that I'm managing, it also gives me a leaderboard with respect to who's falling behind, so that I can have coaching opportunities, mentoring opportunities as I have one-on-ones with the sales reps. And not least, it also gives me what are the different sets of products that I can sell in different stores and things like that. Let's take a deeper look at one of the stores that need my attention. Let's see this application in action. So I'm going to click on More Metrics, and it is going to launch a dashboard that is going to present me with key KPIs with respect to all of the stores, such as revenue, unit volume, and what is the compliance rate, how many visits are being held, and then are there any open cases, essentially augmenting all the CRM data with the consumer goods cloud data with respect to how you can prioritize some of those store visits, as well as sales strategies. Let's dive into one of the stores that I want to focus on today. For example, I'm going to look at this New Valley store. Right out of the bat, I can see that the in-store volume, sales volume is declining. So I definitely want to pay attention to this store. So I can come in and then I can see what's going on with this store. So I'm launching the retail store page right from the analytics dashboard, right? So right here, I can see the two dashboards have been embedded, without losing the context of the store that I want to analyze. So as I come in here, I want to focus on the last 30 days, what's happening in this store. And I can see that, all the KPIs have been reflective of the date range that I selected. And typically today I'm going to focus on the unit volume. So I'm even going to filter down to the quantity, and I can see that some of the products have been decreasing with respect to average quantity that I'm selling in these stores. So now that I know there are a couple of products that are not really selling well, I want to see what I can do about to keeping those store sales intact. Maybe I want to see what other products that I can position for this store. So I click on the white space analysis, and then maybe I want to look at what are the top selling products for in this store in the past. So I'm going to look at maybe this quarter or maybe last 90 days. And then I can see that there are a couple of products that are, I could position. So let me see this product. So it looks like this is being sold pretty well. So I'm probably going to, position this product for this as well. And maybe let's look at a different product. So this seems to be, up and down. Maybe I'm not going to focus on this one. So as I demoed you in a couple of clicks, I was able to look at high-level KPIs in my homepage, and then I drill down to the store details, and then I already have a couple of sales strategies particular to this retail store. Let me go back and then show you how I can use some of the pre-built content to measure and monitor the sales team performance. So as I log in, as I clicked on sales team performance dashboard, it is going to present you with a number of KPIs that are relevant for each of those sales reps, how you can have an engaging conversations. Let's say I'm going to look at Wendy today to see how she's performing with respect to her own sales targets, unit sales volumes, and the revenues and things like that. It almost looks like she's falling behind with respect to unit sales volumes, and it's directly correlates with her sales revenue and the targets. And I also noticed some of the out of stock occurrences for her. So I might engage with her to say, what is going on. I can directly chatter with her to see out of stock occurrences. Let's follow up with this. So as she logs into her own Salesforce instance, she's going to take a look at some of these coaching opportunities that I had mentioned her. So now I talked about sales managers. Now let's see how a sales rep can take advantage of the pre-built content that we have. So for example, Wendy is planning her day to one of the stores. So as she logs in, she can go ahead and she can click on the store insights. As she logs in, for the sake of simplicity, I'm not switching between devices, but this can be viewed on the mobile device as well. So as you can see, it is going to show her within that store what is the total revenue and is it an increase or decrease compared to the prior period, which is giving a nice visual cue for her to have a better conversation with the store managers as she plans her visit. And she can also see all the compliance metrics that are relevant for this particular store. She can actually see that, she can also see that there are number of out of stock compliance metric has been low, and then she can come down and she can even see some of the cases that are out there. She can actually quickly see that there are some of the cases related to late delivery or the product recalls or discontinued products, so that she can have a meaningful conversation with the store manager. So this is for the sales manager, sales rep. So she can have a better, she can even collaborate with her manager to say, what can we do about these product outages or discontinued products, things like that. So, this is all about consumer goods. Back to slides. I want to talk about the second application that we are launching with Spring Release. So this is going to be based on customer lifecycle analytics. Essentially, this is based on Salesforce survey data, wherein you can help CX managers and CX analysts to measure and monitor the customer engagement, net promoter score, and how is the surveys, or are you getting enough responses? If you're not getting enough responses, how can you manage their customer journeys and things like that? With that, let me dive into the product. So in here, we are primarily targeting two target personas. One is a service agent who is in front line helping customers with their own questions about any product related questions and things like that. They care about customer satisfaction firsthand. So in this card, you can see, while they're helping the customer on a specific customer case, they can see the customer satisfaction rightfully embedded within the context based on their survey responses. Let's see how a CX manager or a CX analyst can take advantage of this pre-built analytics application. Once again, they are in their homepage. They can quickly look at how is their net promoter score, and specific to any customer journey that they want to zoom in on. In this case, I selected one specific customer journey, and it looks like the net promoter score is not so good. And not only that, it is also giving me what is my customer base and who are those people who are responding to these surveys, and at what stage of their customer journey do they have pain points, so that as a customer experience manager, I can focus on specifically to drill into that particular process, whether I can optimize it or maybe better engage with customers. Let's see how this application in detail and how they can get a deeper understanding. So I'm going to look at the previous fiscal year as we are in January. So once again, you can see which stage of the journey they can be improved. And of course, it's giving you the nice breakdown of each of those stages, and then how many customers do I have who are responding, and of the people who are responding, how is the my score is going on. This is one of the things. And the other thing that I want to highlight is the response distribution itself. For example, you send out a lot of surveys to customers, you send out to a number of people, but you want to know what's working and what's not working, and even within the surveys, what's been positive versus negative. So in this case, you can see for all the surveys that you are sending, how is the abandonment rate, and how is the response rates, and how many responses that you are getting, how many invitations have been sent out. So basically, it's going to help you reach out to your customers in meaningful ways and appropriate touch points of their customer journey. And you can also get to know the demographics of the people who are responding to your surveys. For example, you can see who are responding more, and what's their age range, and then what is the distribution by gender. And then you can even look at the engagement ratio, and then you can even look at the satisfaction ratio for all of the surveys that you're sending out. So with that, these are the two products that I want to show a live demo, and then I also want to talk about enhancements that we made for the existing apps that we have. So four other apps that we already have with respect to different industry verticals for financial services, insurance, HLS, and manufacturing. We have enhanced all these four products even in spring release. So specifically for wealth management, you can look at the configurability, meaning if a customer doesn't have financial transactions captured in Salesforce, now they have the option to not bring in those visualizations that that require financial transactions. And the second enhancement we made for FSC wealth management, we deployed a managed package on App Exchange, which allows customers to take bulk actions to add number of clients to campaigns and create campaigns, add them to campaigns. That's available on the managed package to download. I mean, it can be used for any other use cases where you want to add number of accounts or clients, leads or contacts to campaigns. And on the insurance side, we have enhanced a lot of content that would include claims and also the distributor 360. And on the HLS side, we are including two predictive use cases that are going to help for pre-authorization risk and care plan adherence. And we also enhanced some of the content updates for social determinants. Basically, you can identify members who may have social conditions that are preventing them from getting care, and then take preventive actions, and then making sure you can avoid any avoidable claims. And for manufacturing, we have added configurability once again to provide customized app install based on whether you are using forecasting or not. And we also added product recommendations dashboards that you could take advantage of. With that, back to you.
All right, thank you very much. Lots of great apps coming and what you're working on. So I have a few questions, but first just a little clarification. Are these apps kind of a completely separate thing, or are they something that you would purchase on top of the standard Einstein Analytics?
Great question. All these industry products are built on top of the industry-specific data models. So, for example, if you want to use consumer goods analytics application, we would expect you to have that base Salesforce consumer goods and retail execution data model readily available in your organization.
So then this app would just basically save you time building the most common things that are needed.
So all the features that my colleagues have talked about, we are making it easy for you to consume and then accelerate your analytics journey with pre-built content, curated data sets, and you can even take these curated data sets and run Einstein Discovery stories on top of these curated data sets.
Interesting. So you still have the full functionality doing your own custom data sets and visualizations. This sort of gives you just a big head start with what is typically needed for those industries.
Yes. On top of it, carefully thought out user experience.
Right. Thanks. Now, what about bringing in external data, like point of sale, for example, for the consumer goods analytics?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, our Einstein Analytics, all these industry apps are powered by Einstein Analytics platform. So what that means is all the capabilities, once again, the data connectors, external data, whether it is through other Salesforce instance or connectors or CSV uploads, they can happily bring in those data and then augment it with Salesforce data.
Great. And are there, other than having the standard Einstein licenses, are there any other prerequisites to access the pre-built apps?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they should have industry clouds enabled in their orgs. And of course, we expect them to have some data, captured some data. And then, with the Einstein Analytics for those specific industry products, they can they can install this application via a templated install, and then, get to all the dashboards, data sets, data flow, and discovery use cases.
Gotcha. And what all is included in these pre-built applications?
Yes, each of these application comes with its own data flow. We have made it easy for you to make all the connections to these data models. So that's one of the things that you can take advantage of. And then, of course, the data flow means, we have already provided you plenty of samples for doing rich transformations, aggregates, and things like that. And of course, pre-built dashboards that they can either readily use, or they can customize and then build their own visualizations. And of course, they get curated data sets. And some of these apps even come with the Einstein Discovery stories embedded within the pre-defined template, and also the story and the data set.
Thank you. And was that, when you were showing the sales manager, I think it was the sales manager experience with the home page, and there was a dashboard there, is that a component that they can add to the home page with the cloud, the industry cloud setup? Or?
It's a analytics dashboard. You can readily embed the dashboard in the home page, and they can even embed some of the pre-built content into Salesforce record pages, because, as I showed you, one of the dashboards was embedded in the home, and one of the dashboards was embedded in the retail store page. You can build your own content as well.
Great. Thank you. So I have a couple more questions, and then I think we're about ready to wrap up. Maybe since Einstein Analytics does have quite a few different variations and products and different license types, so maybe we could just go down the line, and for each of the areas that you talked about, what type of license is required, which features are standard, what requires an add-on. Obviously, everything we talked about today, it requires some type of Einstein Analytics license. There's kind of the main base license, right? But then if you need, I'm assuming everybody would need the base license for everything that you all talked about, the main.
Yeah, I can speak for the industry analytics products. So essentially, they need to have the cloud, industry cloud, the specific industry cloud should be available. And then on top of it, for example, Einstein Analytics for financial services is an add-on to the FSE cloud. Einstein Analytics for consumer goods cloud is an add-on to Salesforce consumer goods.
Gotcha.
So something like that.
Okay. And
then Discovery is included in Einstein Analytics Plus, as well as Einstein Prediction. So those are the two SKUs that include Discovery in them.
Right. Thank you.
And for the features that I demoed, most of them are available in the standard Einstein Analytics one.
Okay, perfect. That was for Yogesh and anyone else who's curious. So back to I think this was about dashboard components in the builder, but maybe Christy can keep me honest here. So what about formatting, like making things bold or italic?
So that's something we definitely have in mind. It's been asked multiple times, and we know it's something our users want. It's in our pipeline. We want to get it done. It will come down mostly to priorities, but it's definitely something we're thinking of tackling. And if it's not this release, it's probably the next one.
All right, great. Well, thank you everybody for presenting today. That's about all we have, and I guess we'll just give you a few minutes back in your day. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and if we didn't get your question, or if you have another question you think of later, feel free to post it in the Release Readiness community. We'll follow up with you in the next few days. Also, this has been recorded, so you can rewatch it anytime or share it with others. So come back and join us again tomorrow at 9:30 Pacific for the platform session, which also will be followed later in the day by Flow. So we definitely can't miss that one. So I can't wait to hear how you're using new features to innovate. So let's just keep the conversation going in the Release Readiness community, where all Trailblazers meet to be release ready.